If you have over $200,000 sitting stagnant in your bank, retirement account, or home equity, then you're literally losing money. On this show, you learn how to get that money working for you consistently and conservatively. Learn to grow your nest egg with your host, Shawn Winslow. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another Multifamily Monday episode. I'm your host, Shawn Winslow, and this is the Multifamily Money Podcast. What is going on, everybody? You know the drill. Every Monday, we're coming at you all things multifamily related, from solo shows to interviews. And every Friday, we come at you with all things personal finance. Because after all, it's not what you make, but what you keep. And the cool thing about today's episode, the guest I'm interviewing, we kind of talk about both things. It was cool. We're both passionate about business, investing, and also personal finance. We both understand that it's something that is not taught in society and should be. And he actually wrote a book to help impart some wisdom on society when it comes to personal finance. But before I start, as always, guys, I don't really ever ask for anything, but if you get value out of today's episode, please share it with friends, families, coworkers, colleagues, anyone that you think could get value from this or who needs this value, because this episode specifically is my favorite one to date, and it brings so much value. Value after, punch after punch, just jam-packed with tons of value, actionable steps. So again, if you could, please share on your socials, just text it to a friend, whoever may need it, please share. The individual I'm interviewing today went from W-2 corporate job at a Fortune 50 company, leading teams, a name brand company that he talks about it in the show. Went from that to buying a single family home as an investment property, to some duplexes, got up to 7 units, eventually got up to 200 plus units, left his job because he was making more from that income from those units than he was from his job. And he felt it was a safe time to do so. Vertically integrated his business, bringing in both property and construction management. And today, this individual has over $450 million of multifamily assets with no outside capital. Yeah, let me repeat that. $450 million of multifamily assets with no investors. So we dive into this. We talk about how he was able to do that, how he's able to scale, how he was able to keep all this organized. And it was just a great episode. And then on top of that, we talk about personal finance and really how to manage that and to be able to create the life you want to create. So guys, without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce Logan Rankin. Hey, Logan, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Shawn.
Yeah, man. As I was saying, thank you, because I know you're a busy guy, and for you to come on here and just impart some awesome wisdom with us all, it's just really appreciated. But yeah, man, let's get into it. So if you don't mind sharing, you invest in multifamily real estate. What's and I normally don't ask this question, but you're so unique, I want to, your portfolio size, percentage of ownership, and your age.
Yeah. Let's start in reverse order. So 36, just turned 36 this summer. My portfolio size is, as of Monday, 3,314 units, 300 or 450 million worth of real estate. And then equity wise, I own 100%. So, and then I do have another portfolio that's about 88 units, and on top of the 3,300, and that is with the president of my property management company. We own that 50-50, but the majority of my units I've retained all the equity for.
Man, that's so impressive. And I say this in jest, but man, this had to be given to you, right? You had to have a silver spoon, right? You can't just create that as a 36-year-old.
Yeah. It was.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know we're talking a little bit about my book, but I know that's what I get a lot of at this point in my career, is like, how do I do it too? And that's impossible. And you must have had a lot of money. And yeah, my parents made a combined $40,000 a year growing up. And, I came from nothing. I say I came from nothing from a money standpoint, but I did come from everything from the sense of just like an incredible family that taught me what hard work and character and integrity and that life should be about relationships and not transactions. And I think that's much more valuable than any sort of money. But, the short story is I graduated from college with negative $44,000 of debt. And so we had not only our net worth was negative. So, and that wasn't that long ago, 11, 12 years ago. So, we didn't have any money. And I just think there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate, and I'm not against any of them. For me, eventually, for my story is I knew that if I wanted to quit my W-2 job, I didn't ever want to work for people in the future. And I felt that finding the money and reporting to investors and telling them what I do is almost like continuing to work for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered if I put the same amount of time into running my properties better, creating value, creating cash flow and retained all the equity, that I could scale too. It's just a slower process in the beginning. Nobody sees the first 3 years where I bought 7 units, right? Yeah. They see last year where I bought 1,200. But I would tell you how many investors took 3 years to buy just 7 units. So it takes a while to be able to scale the way that I did.
Yeah, and so let's talk about, did you always have that mindset when it came to money and real estate and wanted to do it on your own? And you mentioned a W-2 job. So how did you get this to work? Like for some people, this is like, how did he do this?
Yeah. So back up a little bit. Did I always have this mindset? I would tell you I had a scarcity mindset, but like when my parents would give me the limited amount of money that they did, or I would work, even in high school, balancing a couple of jobs in college, I double majored, played college basketball and worked 2 jobs. Wow. All this time I'm just saving. Right. Because that's what I was taught. So my mindset in the beginning was, at least I was lucky enough to know that you had to save money, not just spend it. And I was an awesome saver. You could say I was a disciple of Dave Ramsey in the beginning. And then eventually I read enough books to graduate and realize that to create real wealth, you can't save your way there. Right. You got to invest it and you got to have control. And, I think the only thing I have against Dave is he teaches fear instead of understanding with things, for example, like debt. I think there's nothing to be feared when it comes to financials. It's actually some of the things that I really dislike about our education system and some of the people that teach financials or wealth building. It's like really scary and they use big words, and financial advisors want to continue to let them do all the work for you. But, if you work really hard for your money, you should expect your money to work hard for you. And you have to understand how money works. And understanding is not something to be feared. And I think there's just too many people in society in general that teach fear. So once I started educating myself and reading, because I didn't have any family or friends in real estate or with significant amounts of wealth. So I'm self-taught. I'm still to this day haven't paid $1 for any coaching programs or went to any big seminar. I just read a lot, and then I took action and applied, and I made mistakes and gained experience and just continued to move that way. And I got into real estate in 2013. So I eventually started making a little bit more money. And I realized that I just had no idea how to build wealth. I was putting all my money into things like Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs, my 401k. And I just felt like I couldn't predict how much money I was making, and I didn't have the control. And then as I started reading and understanding where I was putting my money, I started realizing that the tools that I was using to build wealth didn't even line up to what I wanted in life. I didn't want to work until I was 60 years old in retail, for example. But if I continued to put all my money to a 401k, I couldn't even draw from it until I was 59 and a half, which is crazy to me, right? I mean, it's common sense, but for me, it wasn't. And I thought it was nuts that somebody had my money and would penalize me if I wanted to take it back. So you asked about my W-2 job. I mean, I started as an intern at Target Corporation and not making a lot of money. And I think $34,000, $35,000 a year is where I started. And I did what my parents taught me to do. And that was you work really, really hard at anything you do. And, it doesn't matter what it was, filling shelves, pushing the truck, cashiering, going to get carts, but nobody should do it better than you, or at the very least, you should do it to your fullest potential. And I just worked really, really hard and long hours at that. And then they taught me to learn. So I'd be the guy asking all the dumb questions, as many things as I can, and making mistakes. And they taught me to be curious. So there's a lot of opportunities in retail to take more responsibility if you're willing to. And I would always take them, even if I didn't know what I was doing. And that led me to be able to promote a lot. I promoted to an assistant manager rather quickly, then a store manager, then a district manager. Got an opportunity to oversee a really large group in 5 states with 19,000 people. Got an opportunity to work on operations across the United States to change the way stores run for a period of time. And and along with those years of work working for a Fortune 50 company, I learned things that were really valuable to me, like leadership. And I don't think we talk about that enough in real estate. That if you really want to scale and you really want to grow, you have to understand people, and you have to understand how to put good people around them, hire great people, fire people. Most of all, develop and train and build systems for these people. And I learned a lot of that at a very young age, and I feel very fortunate for that. I also learned about should never do something one time. If you do it one time, you should think about a repeatable process to be able to put into place. So anyway, I started making a lot of money, really high 6 digits, and I liked my job. I loved the responsibility. But as I started realizing that there's a responsibility that I'm working very hard for this money, and I'm making sacrifices with my family, and I'm working nights and weekends, and I'm working every single day to continue to achieve at my Fortune 50 company, and I'm trading my time for that eventually I need to build up my money and my wealth so that my wealth starts giving me time back. And that was real estate, built up to about 250, 260 units. And that was crazy, because after tax, that was making as much in like 10 hours a month at a third-party management company than my W-2 job was. So I started to realize too, like wealth, real wealth, it wasn't started at 34,000, but I think with bonuses and stuff like that, my last role was paying me almost $500,000. That is income, but you can't build real wealth because it's taxed through income. You build it through the assets that you earn, right? So like if I have like $450 million worth of real estate and inflation is 10%, my entire portfolio grows, right? You can do the math on 450 million. That is not taxed. Yeah. So I started to realize that like by accumulating assets, by accumulating cash flow, by putting my money into investments that are more tax efficient, there's no amount of income, even if I was the CEO of Target, that they could pay me. Like right now, there's no way. I'd make more than the CEO of Target. Like it doesn't, income is very, for me, was something I focused solely on in the beginning until I realized that you need to turn income into assets so that assets give you back the time. Right. And that's what I did is I left in 2019, built a property management company, the construction company. And it really helped me scale my portfolio to where it is today.
Awesome. A lot to unpack there. First, I want to hit on you emphasized hard work that you learned from your parents. And I think that's not taught enough today. I think a lot of people focus on what they want and don't realize that if they focus on what they're doing now and what they have and do really great at that and work hard, that will get them what they want. But they don't do that. And clearly you did. And I think you're right. Income will only get you so far, but I think it needs to be focused on the beginning like you did. So then you can create those assets. So the question here, a long-winded question here, is there anything you learned from working for Target that, kind of bled over into now this multi-million-dollar corporation you own and run?
So much. And Shawn, I always get the question too, like, I hear a lot of entrepreneurs that want to skip the W-2 job, and you can, right? There's a lot of ways to be successful, but I wouldn't trade that necessarily. I mean, I wish I knew more. Maybe I would have left a little bit early, but like, I also think like working for a company that gives you a lot of forget the compensation for a second. Just working for a company that gives you a lot of responsibility and skills and also pays you, right? Mm-hmm. Like school gives you a lot of skills and abilities. It should anyway, but you have to pay for it. I always feel like if you're going to work for somebody else, work for somebody that is helping you grow and evolve. And, my first job, luckily, did a ton of that. Like, they taught me how to lead people. They taught me how to fire people. They taught me how to hire people. I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of interviews. I talk to a lot of business entrepreneurs that just don't even know what to look for in something as simple as an interview. So I would tell you the biggest thing that they taught me to do was people. And because I think with people too, like, I was a captain of all my sports team. I understood people. I think I can lead people, get people together as a team to drive results. But you also become a better leader through experience. And I'd rather make those mistakes working for somebody else than in my own business. Yeah. So I had a decade worth of mistakes that I made at Target that allowed me to get better and better and better, so that I didn't have to make those same mistakes when I built my own business. So I think, to answer your question, the leadership skills that I took away from there was probably the biggest asset.
It's funny you say that. I just recorded a solo podcast this morning, and talking about like what I've learned from acquiring the real estate I've acquired so far in my career. And one of the things was personnel and people. They can make or break you in any business. And obviously, what we do, investing in real estate, is a business. Each property is its own business. Each property has its own, staff per se. So yeah, what do you, if you don't mind sharing, what do you look for when you're hiring? Because you hear a lot of people complain, oh, can't find anyone out there, can't find anyone good out there, which just isn't the case. I know you're growing like crazy. You're hiring people, it seems like, every week. So what sets you apart from being able to find those A players?
Yeah. We, in 2019, had 4 employees, and we just crossed over 100, I think last week or the week before. I think we have 102 now. And so during what people would say is the hardest time to find people, right? COVID and post-COVID, we've had incredible success finding people. And I think I can equate it to, we focus really, really heavy on our training and development programs within our company. We literally will spend over $100,000 every single year on training and development only of our team members. And I say that before I answer your question about interviews is because I had a friend who operates a restaurant, and he said exactly what you said, Shawn. He said, I am having the hardest time finding staff to do something simple like wait on tables. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, like, what are you looking for? Like, what are your questions looking for? And one of the biggest things he was looking for was experience on these waitresses and waiters. And if they didn't have experience, they would their first interview, they would disqualify them. And I said, that's the biggest difference. We don't look for experience. We consider experience, but we're talking about waiting tables. Like, you could teach somebody how to wait tables or where to find the food or how to do it in a couple hours. What you can't teach is having somebody that's working really, really hard, that cares, right? You can't teach somebody that has an incredible attitude and has enthusiasm for waiting those tables. Like, you should be looking for the intangible assets, and then you teach them and you build their experience on waiting tables. And I think you can do that in any industry. And, I share that story because that's for us. There's a lot of property management companies or construction that look for people that have 10 years of plumbing experience or 5 years of carpentry experience. When I would tell you over 90% of our employees have had no real estate, no property management experience. We have incredible training programs. So we're not looking necessarily for experience. Do we have licensed plumbers or electricians or HVAC people on our team? Sure. But the vast majority do not. And that's because we're able to train them and develop them. So what we look for first and foremost, does the person have a really high level of character? Can we trust this person? We don't want to spend all this money training and developing them if it's just not if the person is not a good person or not somebody we can trust. Yeah. Number 2, they got to be really driven. Like, I call it driven for greatness. But like, do they want more? Because if they're driven to accomplish more and achieve more, they're going to work really, really hard, even when their boss is not watching. So that's important to us. And you can see it in the smallest things. Like, if we're going to hire somebody like a rental tech who's going to be renovating a unit, my office is 3 stories high. So when we walk them through the front door, the person that walks them all the way to the office, if they can't do something as simple as keep up with the person that's bringing them to the interview room, right? They're lagging behind. They can't get up the stairs. That's an immediate disqualification. If you can't keep up to the walk, and they'll walk fast, we'll walk fast, but speed is life is one of our core values. So everything we do is with speed. So if you can't even follow the person that's bringing you to the interview room with speed, you're not driven for the greatness that we want to achieve. And then the last one I would tell you that we really pay attention to is attitude. It's just not something I want to teach. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and tries to piss off other people. So I do think it's like when you encounter a problem, so a lot of our interview questions are related to problems. It's just figuring out how they're looking at the problem, not even how they're solving it. So if we can figure out how they look, how their mindset looks at a problem, before they even go about solving it, we find everything we want from the attitude bucket too.
Yeah, I think that's important. So I'm sure that, you want them to align with your culture. Do you have multi-step interview process where?
Yeah,
I've heard. Okay. So
yeah, they apply, or we find them. This is a funny one for me too. There's like a lot of people are like, oh, nobody's coming through Indeed or LinkedIn. Anybody that's coming that doesn't have a job today in this kind of market, maybe it's not one you wanted in the first place.
Right.
I can't remember the last person we hired that didn't have a job. Like it's just crazy to me that in this industry, we're just like a lot of employers are just waiting for people to come to them, or they're interviewing people that don't have a job. That is, unless there's a very good reason, that would be very scary for us. So we actually recruit, we go after people. It's why I do social media. It's why I do podcasts, because I want people to know of me. So they start coming to us. So a lot of people will come to us that are already working in a job. And then we'll have our HR specialist interview them first. It's usually a 10-minute interview where we're just checking on basic culture kind of fit into our company. And then also letting them interview us too, because the last thing we want to do is have somebody actually come in and not fully understand the job in our company and what we're looking for. Like maybe speed is life is just not right for you. That, if you're not willing to, work hard and quickly and embrace change, we will be the worst fit for you. And the last thing that we want is you not understanding that. And we spend time and money training you or hiring you. You spend time and money coming in and not interviewing at a job that might be the best fit for you. So they pass that initial screening. Then they go to the leader of the department that was interviewing them. I'm a big advocate. Some companies only have the HRs do the interviewing. That is crazy.
Yep.
You want the person, the leader that is going to be responsible of that team member in the interview process. Because if they say, yes, I love this person, I want to hire them, now they're also accountable for that hire. They take training more seriously. They feel more responsible. And in our company, we don't just score people on results. We score people on how they are with their team. How many people have you lost this year? How many people have you promoted this year? Like if you want to achieve the highest rating as of a review, you can't have all of your team at the lowest, right? Yeah. So like how you are as a team, they're very integrated into the process. And still to this day, I do want to mention this, Shawn, any leader promotions or leader hires and above at this company, I am the final interview with the president of my company. So I only work in my property management company now a couple of days. I have an incredible guy that runs the company. And but just leaders change culture changes companies and drives the most results. So when we have 4 employees, I try to be in every single interview, and anybody growing a company, I would tell you that is a very important step you should be in. And then at some point I was willing to let go of the team member interviews. And now I still to this day will do the leadership interviews.
That's amazing. Well, thanks for sharing all that. That's a lot of nuggets right there that people can take in any industry, right? But so Logan, what does a day look like for you now? Obviously, back when you had 7 units or whatever it was all you probably, right? Now what does a day look like for Logan? What are you focused on?
Yeah, I loved building companies. And I would tell you, Shawn, I actually don't share this very much. I don't know if I share this on a podcast, but I don't even like real estate that much. I like business. I like everything about business. And I listened to this the other day, and it was so true. I want to share this with you and I'll tell you about where my what I feel like sometimes we don't talk about like mistakes or things people struggle with.
Yeah.
And so the journey of growing a company from 4 employees to over 102, and doing, I think, 300,000 the first year to, I think we'll do 30 million just in the property management company, like growth wise. Wow. Is you have total control in the beginning. And you have, which is why you started the business in the first place, is to have the control. And you're wearing every single hat. And I mean, I'm answering phones, I'm doing delinquency, I'm doing reconciliation, things I have no business doing. I'm figuring it out, I'm learning, and I'm doing just about everything. It is exhausting, but you have total control. You have your hands in everything, so you know it's done right. And then as you grow and as you evolve, something really interesting happens. The only way to scale and the only way to grow, and I feel like a lot of people struggle with this, is you have to slowly start giving back control. And it feels weird, right? As you start giving back control, because you got in this, you were doing all these things, but the only way to be able to grow your company now is to become great at training and developing and hiring great people to do the things that you were doing. So you start losing control because you're not doing all those things anymore, right? So at the speed up to today, I mean, I've always done these quarterly company meetings where we'd get everybody in one room and we'd talk about the last quarter and the next quarter and what to get jacked and excited about. We did this like in the middle of COVID when people started laying people off. And I still remember looking everybody in the eye saying, we built this company for a recession, and we sure as hell in good times leaned on you to work harder and to work longer. In what people are considering bad times, we're not going to be one of these technology companies or these other companies that are laying off. Nobody's being laid off as long as you continue to work hard. Like cool, exciting company meetings like that, where I got to do the majority of the talking. And now, like this last month, we have a company meeting and my president has nothing for me to say. I'm like in the back with the team members with no control, watching my directors and my president, update the entire staff. And it was kind of surreal for me. And I've struggled. It's very, very difficult to do because you put yourself in a position where you went from total control to no control. The business actually is running on its own. And which, a lot of people would say that's great, but most entrepreneurs know that there's just so many exciting things about having control over your business and being able to drive it. But if you get really good at developing and establishing systems and processes and good people, then the business doesn't need you as much. And obviously that's the whole point. But truthfully, Shawn, that has been a struggle for me from 2019 to today. And because my schedule or my typical day looks very different. So now, there's really nothing I do on a day-to-day basis that has to be done within the company. There's no execution. So I spend the majority of my time on strategy. So strategic changes. At our company, we built standard operating procedures for everything, or for the majority of things. And the things that aren't built, there's culture and there's expectations that a team member, will have to drive a key performance indicator to be able to do it. If any of those want to change, and they should over time, right? Because I believe in process depreciation. Process today doesn't mean it's going to be great tomorrow. And if a team member has a better way to do it, we have a system. And that system goes like, hey, I think this way is better. They have to answer a few questions. They got to prove out why that piece of the system should be upgraded. Then they share that with their boss, which is a leader. The leader checks into it and agrees or disagrees. If they obviously agree, then the leader and the team member present that to their director. Once they do that, if the director should poke holes in it, should ask questions, should further solidify, and if that happens, then they present it to the president. President sits on it for about 2 weeks, and then him and I will talk about it. And that is where I'm kind of inserted into the business. If we're going to change processes, if we're going to promote people, if we're going to hire leaders, that is where my time is spent. So I am spent on, I guess you could call it, changes within the company that we feel should be upgraded, and then strategic vision for the future. So I would say that's this collection of items, call it business architecture. Where does the org chart need to go in the next 5 years, and how do we get there, and when do we get there, and what does that look like with payroll and cash flow and my property management company has been operating at zero profit. Like every time we achieve profit, we just pay our people more, or we buy capital improvements for the company. Yeah. It's the one business I've never taken a dollar from, and it's all went back to the employees, development, capital improvements. And it's like, that's so important to reward the people that are working really hard. And my reward is obviously, if the property management does a good job, my biggest business, my holdings business with all the properties does good too. But that's where I spend the majority of my time. I'm also building a holdco business. So property management, maybe 1.5 days a week. The holdco business, which is just a business with a few people that I am currently putting on the business. So like my brand manager, my executive assistant, going to hire a COO, operations officer, and we're going to invest equity in other businesses and help them be able to scale. So we have 3 businesses in there right now, and that's going really, really well. That allows me to be able to still get the feeling of some control. I don't run the business, but I can give consultation. I can give advice. I can still feel like I'm part of the process, which like really helps give me the adrenaline that I'm missing. And then my wife and I started a foundation, which I'm super excited about. That's going to help create a ton of education from financial literacy, health and wellness, and just overall life skills. It's really funny that you asked about interview. Like a lot of people don't know how to interview for a job. That's actually one of the courses we teach for free.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So we'll do that. And then we're also buying homes and finding families and giving that home to the family as long as they help with the rehab at a 0% interest rate. So we hope to change the generational trajectory of a family that needs some support, both when it comes to their house, which I think we'll have, once they pay that off in 30 years at 0%, we'll, I think, have financial generational wealth capabilities. But up here, like, they're required to take our courses. They get to pick the courses, but we really want to change the generational trajectory of families with their mindsets, because that's way more important than even something as vital as shelter.
That's amazing, Logan. And listeners, I think that's one of the main reasons why people need to be successful and build wealth, because then they can do amazing things like that and give back to the community. It shouldn't be hated on that someone achieves success, right? Because more often than not, it's someone like Logan who's going to give back to a community. So I commend you for that. And I was going to touch on that later, but thank you for bringing that up. And there was a lot you said there, and I want to talk about, scaling. And I've heard you say this before. With people that syndicate, raise money, people on social media, got the Lambo and the private jet, right? It's all about scaling, get rich quick, right? Which is not the case in most business and especially not in real estate. What is your advice on scaling? Because I think a lot of people would look at you with they would think this just happened over the last couple of years, but we know that's not true. You said you started, almost 10 years ago or more than 10 years ago. So what, in your opinion, what has made you successful over the last decade and be able to scale, obviously outside of the crazy bull market we've had over the last decade? And I just want to get your opinion. You've talked about, standard operating procedures and culture, and I think that has a lot to do with it, but I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I think everything in life, if you think about it, I try really hard not to think about the next month or the next year. And I try to think in decades. And I think like, if you really want to create wealth, you should be thinking in decades too. And I think that's really key to why I've scaled like I've scaled. For example, when I started investing in 2013 and I bought a single family home, within 1 year, I just understood. I underwrote that deal. I was so pumped. I took my wife along with me. She understood what it should make. It made it. It was predictable. We got really excited. There was a lot of good deals out there in 2014, but we could only afford to buy 2 units, 1 duplex. And that's what we bought. Yeah. And then the next year, there's a lot of good deals in 2015, but we only bought 4 units, right? Because that's all we had. And the reason for that is because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think in today's world, to scale, like it's not a money problem. It's a mindset problem. So I think you can really grow in so many different ways. And I'm not putting down any ways, but you asked how I scaled. So I'm just saying, like, I focused the majority of my time on learning this business. I learned through mistakes. I learned through what are the things that I need to do differently when I didn't have a lot of units, so that I understood whether I built a property management company or hired a third-party management company, I would be able to understand simple processes like delinquency or a lease or other income opportunities or how to achieve market rent. I learned that, and I put all my energy, instead of finding the money, I put all my money into finding the opportunity to create value. And by doing that, I think there's very few people that understand how to reposition property, which is really just a business. So let's just call it what it is. If it's 5 units or more, it's an actual business. I put all my energy and figure out how to make these businesses as profitable as possible. And you only can do that with obviously serving the need to the highest degree. Like I think the experience that we provide residents is very, very high, which creates a strong reputation, which creates a lot of retention, and also the opportunity to charge a little bit more than maybe the market. And it also yields higher net operating income. So by focusing on value and focusing on cash flow, and then I can't remember who I asked, but I asked somebody really wealthy early in my career what the biggest mistakes they made in real estate. And then I started reading about this, and everybody was saying the same thing. It was selling properties. Everybody's like, my biggest mistake is that property I sold. I'm like, well, I'm hearing this a lot. I'm just not going to sell. But then you get to the age-old question, right? I think this was my first apartment building was my significant one was a 55-unit apartment building. And thinking back, I still had what I knew then and what I know now. I still had people think they understand how to reposition properties. Like, you don't. There's just so many things that happened with that 55 unit. Anyway, I remember acquiring that property and looking at the business and what I need to do to be able to scale that property, and realizing that, like, this is all my own money. Like, it's cool to say I own all this, but like, there's other opportunities out there. So I need to figure out, how do I reposition this faster? Like, at that time, people were repositioning properties in 4 and 5 years. And that means that I'd have not only all my own money to acquire that asset, but then I have to use all my own money to spend money repositioning it, like CapEx. This was a $2 million CapEx plan. Now, sometimes you can get that from the lender and they can do a construction loan, but sometimes you can't. And even if you can, it's still a long process to be able to get to that point where you can refi. So I just started putting all my energy into the processes to reposition these assets faster so that I could get my money back out and do it again. And I just think that's was really cool, because I'm like, wow, if I can reposition this asset what happens if I can do it in 12 months? I mean, typically I did a refi today. I just closed on 2 properties on Monday, and Tuesday I was on site with my team. And today I just refied a property, and it was 14 months to the day that I've been repositioned as a 48 unit. I just pulled out 1.9 million. And that is huge, because if that took me 48 months instead of 14, that 1.9 million, there's 2 things. One, obviously the power of money today and now, it would, in 4 years, is less valuable. There's more risk because you don't know what's going to happen in 4 years. Cap rates can change. I mean, over the last year, I think that's really relevant. If you can get your money out quicker, then it's less exposure to the market and what could happen and the things that you can't control. And then obviously being able to take that money and then put it back into another asset. And that's what I think, it's crazy to me that people would sell for that money when you could potentially refi, take that money out, put it into another project, keep the 48 units that now cash flow, because you can't refi it if it wouldn't have a debt service credit ratio that would support the refi. So you have a cash flowing property, just more debt. Which, by the way, if it can support a refi, then the cash flow is so strong that you're probably going to pay taxes on it. But if you do a refi, you can write off the mortgage interest, so you're actually being more tax efficient. And most of my refi in today's world with higher interest rates I put seconds. So I keep the first mortgage, which was probably 14 months ago, better than today. So my blended rate's not even that bad. Like, I have 1.9 million at I think it's 6.75. And then the majority of my loan, which was, I don't know, 3.5, I'd have to look, but that's probably at 4.5. So my blended rate's really not that bad overall. And that has helped me be able to scale. So for me, I focus a ton of my time and energy on how do I make this property more valuable. And I want to do that with speed, and I want to create more cash flow. And I want to obviously do things in a way that would be desirable for the people that want to live there. And I think we do them to a very high degree. Yes, we charge a little bit more for that, but we do things like last month, every service request that came in on 3,300 units was 96% of the time it was done within 48 hours. 73% of the time it was done within 24 hours. Wow. And we're a couple months away from guaranteeing 24 hours. Like, that's our goal. If Amazon can deliver a package within the same day, we can fix your garbage disposal within the same day too. Or maybe you don't pay rent until we do. Like, we're trying to do things in this industry and put a resident that has to rent minds at ease, that if you're going to pay great rent, you're going to get great experience, you're going to get great service. So we're trying to, not just reposition these with speed, we're trying to put people in and offer a really, really good experience so that they never leave too. And that has been a catalyst for growth. But I do want to say this. I had 260-ish units in 2019. When I built the property management company and the construction company, and I started focusing on building systems in-house with my employees, everything else was a lot easier. 3,300 units, that's 3,000 units really in the last 4 years. If you think, wow. if you add up, and I got 128 closing on the 11th of October, and I got another 100 closing on November 7th. I'm still buying and I'm still repositioning. And this company was built for a time like this because we can take an asset and that other people wouldn't be able to find the labor for or the materials for. And we have these rehab teams and crews that have done it year after year after year. And it's just, we can reposition these processes so much faster and the exact same way we've done it before. So now for me, my energy is less on scaling systems. They're all already there. Honestly, everything's already set up. I just need to find the right opportunity, negotiate the right deal, and then we just plug our systems and our people into that, and we do what we've always done.
Wow. So what I'm hearing from all that is speed, right? And it goes to, and you said that was one of your core values. Speed on renovations, obviously, speed on getting work orders completed, which I think you guys are shaking up that business, because in any other business, you're customer service focused, right? That's how you're going to excel, provide amazing service. But I think a lot of management companies don't do that. They look at, the owner of the property as their customer and not the resident, the tenant at the property, which it should be. It should be both, obviously, but they know they don't focus on that.
Exactly, Shawn. And can I just say something to that too?
Yeah.
Because I hear all that you talked about, these influencers standing next to Lamborghinis or, they'll say they own 100 doors and they own 5% of 100 doors. And anyway, to each their own. I just, a lot of times I think they're doing that not just to attract money, but to make themselves feel good. The only thing that should make you feel good is the opportunity to increase net worth or cash flow, not necessarily be able to attract more money or more followers or whatever. And I hear a lot of them, Shawn, say something that you just said. They get really excited on the lease. You don't make a lot of money on the first lease. You make a ton of money on the renewal. And people forget that in this industry. The renewal, when the resident signs back on, is where you make a lot of money. And in our industry, most property management companies are bad at answering the phone, which is why we track answering it on the second ring. Service requests. The easiest way for somebody not to rent from you again is when their AC goes out, you don't fix it for 2 weeks. Right? When the water heater goes out, they have cold water for 3 days. It's just unacceptable. I think it was post-COVID, the year after COVID, the average in Wisconsin anyway was 47 days to fix something. Yesterday we took over, not yesterday, so Monday I took over a 123 unit apartment complex in Madison. And there's 19 service requests that haven't been done since the deal was under contract. That was 75 days ago, and we did them all in the first day, all 19, all of them done. It's just it's these easy things that you should want to do in this industry that, keeps a resident willing to stay where they are. And obviously, if people continue to not do that, it grows a gap of like what you can charge and what other people can't charge.
That's so true. And I was going to ask, and you kind of already answered it, is the speed thing, right? And how are you able to manage that? Because from what I'm hearing, that's helped you scale, right? Obviously being able to turn a whole property in 14 months or less and be able to refi that money out and get it to work again. That makes complete sense. And then from a, customer service standpoint. So I'm sure you have, SOPs, standard operating procedures in place to manage and mitigate that.
That's exactly right. I think the best standard operating procedures don't just have a process that somebody should follow. They have a visible scoreboard at the end of the process that everybody also sees. Okay. I heard somebody say like, oh, that's like, what happens if somebody's doing a bad job? All their peers see that they're doing a bad job. That's not like a great way to drive results. And I disagree. I think that when you're doing a bad job and you see that everybody else is doing better than you, you have two choices. You can complain about it and not be an asset to the company, and probably leads to you either quitting or us firing you. But either way, it happens faster.
That's a good thing, though. Yeah,
it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Or you see the guy that's crushing it and you give him a call and you ask what he's doing and you get better. And those are the people that we want on our team. And so I think making it visible not only helps the leader see who they need to help, coach, support, and impact, but also helps those lower level people kind of feel bad about where they are. And because I see the engagement is so important to drive results. And one of the reasons that most companies don't have engaged employees is like 74%. It's actually crazy in the United States. 74% is because they just don't know where they stand. They don't actually know if they're doing a good job or a bad job. Wow. And they definitely don't know if their peers know if they're doing a good job or a bad job. And they don't know if their boss knows if they're doing a good job or a bad job. Can you just imagine if every employee, every single day, understood exactly how they were doing, how they could be doing, had a way to measure their success against other people, right? Hopefully they're driven to be great. And if they want more money, the leader could say something simple like, instead of being ninth on a team of 10, how about you be in the top 3? And that would help your compensation. Or if you want to get promoted, how about you become the best at what you do? Like our service techs, they get bonused off the same things that we care about too. Every single month they'll get a bonus if their service/experience is here. Every time they do a service request, a resident rates them, right? It's just an automatic process. If they are 100%, so every service request that comes in their territory of a properties, if they're able to do them within 48 hours, that helps with them as well. So now we go speed, and then we have quality. So if you have to go any go backs, so if you have no go backs, you go and you fix something and you don't have to fix it again, which obviously would cost money, then you're eligible for a third type of bonus. Like you can make this win-win. I just think a lot of companies don't slow down within that standard operating procedure to think about how to create a win-win and then make it visible. And then you can just have fun. Like we have a service tech of the month and he says he's going to die with it. He said nobody's going to take it from him. I mean, honest to God, it's a trophy. People are coming for it, but he's not willing to let it go. And then you can, easy things like, can you handle more units? Could you handle another property? Well, obviously, if you're the best service tech, then yes, you probably can. So maybe we'll give you an extra 100 unit apartment building, which will help you be able to earn more. You just try to, within these standard operating procedures, make sure they're scored. How do we answer the phone on the second ring? I post this all the time on my Instagram page because we're consistently over 97% of the time. Call your top 10 property management companies, and I promise you, 8 of them will not even answer the phone.
Right.
But we answer in the second ring 97% of the time because we score it. Every department gets scored every single day. It's sent out to everybody in the entire company, including the president. I mean, as a leader, you just don't want to see yourself on that scoreboard. So if you measure these processes, I think that really helps. The key though, all these matter, but if you want to scale, you want to reposition, you got to figure out how to rehab faster. So we figured out how to rehab any sort of unit within 72 hours, 3 days. That's our secret sauce, is like being able to get in there, demo, put in the LVP, put in the new cabinets, countertops, et cetera, and be able to do it in 3 days when most people take 90 days. It's absolutely a game changer. You can't reposition a property, especially if you're spending money on the rehabs, without figuring out that tenant life cycle of when they put in a 60-day notice or a 30-day notice, and then when they move out and the next tenant goes in. It should be no less than 25 different steps, and they got to be measured very, very carefully, and then you got to be able to get your guys in and out efficiently.
Do you have everything in-house, or do you sub some stuff out for the renos?
Yeah, I think right now we're up to, I was just talking to Mike, my operations director. I think we have 23 total teams, and 19 of them are employee teams and 4 of them are 1099. And we'll always keep subcontractors, because as we expand, it's just too hard to rather quickly build another team that would be able to turn these with the speed and the world-class standards we expect. So having subcontractors allow us to be able to, like, for example, I acquired 2 pretty big complexes on Monday of this week. We took one of our employee teams over and 2 of our subcontractor teams. Now, they worked for us, for over 2 years. They know what they're doing. They're going to help us with our first 9 turns, and then we'll slowly build up a turn team in Madison that actually lives in Madison, and then we'll build another one, and then we'll move our guys back.
Oh, that's impressive. Quickly want to hit on, I've heard you mention this before, which after hearing it's kind of like a no-brainer, and you question why most property management and construction management companies don't think this way. But, when you get that non-renewal, you don't wait to the day they move out to see what needs to be done to the unit. You go in there that day, or at least the next, to see what needs to be done, and you get material ordered and the crew ready to go when that day comes. So I just wanted to highlight that, because it makes complete sense. Back to your point of speed, right?
Yep.
So it just blows my mind that others don't think that way. But we're getting to the top of the hour, Logan. I know time is very valuable, so I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and that's to talk about your book. And for those watching on YouTube, I'm showing it up here. It's Find Your Financial Freedom, Let Go of Fear, Gain Control, and Achieve Lifelong Wealth by Logan Rankin. I finished reading this about, a month ago. And I think when anyone you look up to or admire puts any type of material out, you should jump on it. So for those of you that, know Logan, admire him, or if you don't, you definitely should. You should get this book. I think I got it on Amazon. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where I got it, Logan, or you can get it. I just want to hit on 3 chapters, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The first, chapter 3, Run Your Life Like a CEO. And now I think people might hear that and be like, well, what are you talking about? And after reading, I completely agree. And the main topics are forecast and stick to expenses, work hard and make more, which these are things we've talked about in the episode so far. Be cash flow focused, flip the script, and establish a routine. Reading that, it just makes sense. But why do you think most don't do that, right? They might operate that way at work, but then they get home and just let things go.
Yeah, in my experience, coaching and helping even a lot of my employees, but now some of the CEOs or presidents of the companies that I have equity in, it's a lot of these entrepreneurs, I think it's called the shiny object syndrome. They're like, they love to work really, really hard with speed. And, they're juggling so much, but it's really true. To slow down is to speed up. And I didn't talk about this today, and I appreciate you bringing this up. But one of the things that really, really helped me scale, and I think it holds a lot of people back, is I became ultra organized. So I always knew where I was financially, which then allowed me to be more confident, especially if it's all my own money, right? It's all my own money. So you really want to make sure when you're acquiring this, you have the most amount of risk right away on day one. You want to make sure you have the reserves and you have the all your ducks in a row. And if you don't have your personal assets and your personal cash flow, it slows everything else down. And I update my net worth once a month. And I don't do it to be like, wow, like how much did I grow? I mean, that's great too. You should track how much you grow, but I do it for a few different reasons, right? You should always know where your net worth is. And if you're tracking it once a month, you can also look at the velocity of your net worth. Like, how hard is it working for you? Not just how much it's growing, because there's a difference. You can grow your net worth by having it all in the stock market, and the stock market went up 5%. That's fantastic. But the velocity of your net worth is how much is your net worth actually producing passively for cash flow for you. And it's a completely different equation and something that you should track, especially if you want to achieve financial freedom at a certain age. So, and then the last thing is just obviously you want to be able to track, if you're growing like me and you're scaling, you're going to get a lot of questions from banks and lenders. And it's just, every lender has been really impressed with the organization, because I don't want a lender to know my financial statement or net worth better than me. Like, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, so by running my life like a business, your personal life like a business, number one, it really helps you stay organized and confident in what position you are in. And in uncertain economic times like today, like we're in right now, nothing should, like, if you have a hard time sleeping, like people ask me, I don't know, I have to look, but for sure over $200 million worth of debt. A lot of people that would say they can't sleep at night. I sleep so good. But if you know exactly where you are, because you're running your life like a CEO and you have a great financial plan that you're updating, or if you don't update it personally, you have somebody else you're paying to update for you, and you're just checking on those levers, it really, really helps feel secure to be able to scale. I do want to mention this other thing, and I think it's a previous chapter, but this is important. It also helped me bring my wife along in all the decisions. You know, I might update my financial plan once a month, but we always sit down and have a conversation together, so she knows what went well over the last 30 days, high level, what didn't go well, and what we're focused on. And I think that is just, it's helped our marriage so much, because who we were, you know, when I was at the negative $40,000 of debt, I was just about to get married. Like, we had no money together collectively. And I see a lot of very successful people get divorced. And I do think one of the reasons is one of them is evolving and growing and not communicating, or not running their life like a CEO with their wife alongside of them. And I just wanted to mention that too, Shawn, because it's not just about updating it for you. It's about making sure that now you have a plan where you can share the high level things with your significant other. And I think that has really helped her be able to ask great questions. Honestly, things that I might have not saw, or I'm like, why are you asking that question? You should be focused on this. But it's a great question. And it makes me think differently. And I really think slowing down to stay organized and slowing down in general has helped me speed up tremendously.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I actually, selfishly, I just got married. So that is a great piece of advice that I think, because I update my PFS, personal financial statement, every month, and look at my net worth. But I think that's important to share that. I love
that you do that too, Shawn. And think about it, everybody wants multiple streams of income. You have multiple streams of income. Never, if you're not doing it today, never will it be easier to update than today. Like, everybody wants to grow. Like, if you have a duplex, that's 2 other streams of income besides your W-2 job. If you grab another duplex, that's 4 coming in. Keep track of it now, because if you keep tracking it now and you're doing it every single month, it's easy. You don't want to have 3,000 streams of income coming in and not be organized. That is a recipe for disaster. So like, I love that you're doing it every month too, but like, for the people listening, even if you only have your W-2 income and your wife's W-2 income, or your significant others, or just yours, start doing it now, because then it's just so much easier to scale along with you. Yeah.
And if you're in the real estate business too, sometimes, or a lot of times lenders will ask for an updated one, right? Unless you have a really good relationship, but a lot of times they do. So it's just easier. If you're doing it every month, it's just, oh, here it is. But top of the hour, Logan, if you got to go, I totally understand.
You're good, man. Keep it up.
One more. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it. So chapter 5, I like this chapter, and you've alluded to it with, velocity of money, and it's the chapter 5 is your money should move. If you high level, why you already kind of hit on it, but why that's so important. And most people don't understand or even really know that that term or exists, right?
Yeah, I think if you've never heard velocity of money, forget everything I just said on this entire podcast, or that Shawn said, and just Google velocity of money. Better yet, chat GBD it.
Yeah.
And learn about it, because velocity of, you've probably heard about compounding interest before. You've probably heard about return on investment before, but I would just tell you that if you understand velocity of money, compounding and ROI mean nothing compared to velocity of money.
Yeah.
velocity of money is you focusing on when you give away $1, how fast will it come back and you be able to do it again? It's the velocity, right? So for example, if we were just talking before the show that we were both in Italy.
Yeah.
I had to wire $7 million for these 2 deals on Monday, the closing from Italy. You can imagine how many, it was like 4 people called me to verify this wire. Yeah, and I'm like, I promise it's me. So that $7 million for these deals that was wired, I want to track how fast is that money going to come back? And then how can I use it again? Right? That is the velocity of money. Another way that I love to track this is cash on cash return. Cash on cash return is just simply like, if you spent $7 million, how much of that are you going to get back in year 1? Right? So if you're going to get 30% in year 1, then it's going to take you 3 years, right, to get the whole money back. And why is that important? Because if you get it back, and can retain the asset, by the way, which is incredible velocity, right? You can retain the cash flowing asset. Now you could literally do the same thing again, and then you could do it again. So obviously, for example, if you just focus on ROI and you're like, hey, how did your 401k do last year? And you're like, it was up 10%. That is great, because your return on investment is up 10%, but there is no velocity, there is no cash on cash return, because it didn't produce any cash flow that you can actually use and velocize over. So for example, if you are like me, 36, and you have all of your money in a 401k, then you have, right, to wait until you're 59 and a half to be able to take any of that money back to be able to create velocity. So even what I think people should focus on is wherever they put their hard-earned money, if you want it to work really, really hard, you should be tracking how quickly you're going to get it back. Kevin O'Leary talks about his money being soldiers, and they go out and they bring back other soldiers. What he's talking about is velocity of money. He's going to send his soldiers out, i.e. money, and those guys got to grab other soldiers and other money, and they bring it back along with them. So he's very focused on any investment that he makes, how quickly will he get it back? And he understands that if he's going to get it back in 10 years, that's one opportunity. But if he can send the same amount of money out and get it back in 1 year, that velocity is so much greater, and it has so much opportunity to create really, really big amounts of wealth. By the way, and it significantly decreases risk.
Yeah.
The longer you have money out, there's more uncontrollables that you don't have control over. For example, if all your money's in a 401k and you can't move it, nothing you can do about inflation. If you know right now that the market is going to crash, and I know the financial advisor, I know what they're going to say, just ride it out. Just ride that out. Everybody rides it out. Over the long term, you'll be fine. Excuse my language, but when I hear that, I just, fuck that. That's my money. If we both know that the stock market is going to drop 10%, why are we okay with that? Why would we be okay with that? Oh, over the long term, it'll be fine. The long term, why? That's, right. Why do we have to lose 10% and then, wait over the long term for that to equal back out to 7? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so if you could move that money and not have it drop 10%, that would be better, because I worked hard for that money and you're still getting paid either way. I want to get a return. So I just think velocity of money really helps give you the opportunity, especially of control, to get that money quicker, to then decide if you want, like, for example, if real estate is not a great bet and I get all the $7 million back, maybe I don't put that money back into real estate. Maybe I put it into a different investment that I feel stronger about at that time. But either way, I have the opportunity to do that because of velocity of money. Sorry, that was a long answer, but no, I could do a whole show on this.
That's why I left that industry, Logan. And it's funny because people will say, but that's what everyone else does. Well, there's a reason why everyone else does that, is because these big investment firms have such big marketing budgets that they make you think that's what you need to do. And you know why? Because when your money's in a sticky investment vehicle like a 401k, that your money's being velocitized, but not by you, by that investment firm. They're taking those fees and then they're going to invest, sometimes investing against the bet you're making, the investment you're making, but we won't go there. But that's what's happening. They're velocitizing your money when you should be able to velocitize your own.
Well put.
Man, hey, I appreciate your time, man. This has been a killer episode. Hopefully I can get you back on sometime in the future, because I really love what you're doing. He's definitely doing this, guys, not to make any money, because he makes his money from his businesses. He's just given back. And that's a chapter in his book, I believe chapter 7, Legacy. And he spoke about it, what him and his wife are doing with their foundation. And I commend you for that. So, man, before I let you go, where can listeners find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate this episode too, Shawn. Thanks for having me on. You can find me on every social media site, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Logan J. Rankin. And yeah, I have nothing to sell you. My only hope is I can help facilitate free education, because I think everybody deserves that. And, maybe connect with you one day if our businesses jive or you're in the same location. So thanks for having me on, man.
No, thank you. And listeners, as always, easy doesn't pay well, and instant gratification is self-destructive. So not only get out there and work hard for your money, but have it work hard for you so you can create the life of your dreams. And that comes from personal excellence. At the end of the day, you better yourself, we can all better the world. So I'll catch you on the next one.
Hey, this is Shawn Winslow. After being in the financial service industry for years and having candid conversations with good people just like you, I realized that so many of us are wanting an investment strategy that provides solid returns and consistent income without the bumps in the road. There's little known secret that your financial advisor doesn't want you to know. There is investment out there that is less volatile and the returns are stronger. Get more details by going to greenbriercg.com and clicking on the free e-report. And by the way, if this show has provided you any value, then feel free to leave an honest written review and of course share it with a friend who needs it. See you next week for another great show.